Hey everybody, I am Haley Gray. I'm excited to invite you to one of our bonuses here for the WEN Summit for April 2022. And I have an amazing powerhouse attorney, Amira Irfan, here with me. And we're going to be talking about law and small business and some of the things and some of the mistakes that small business owners make and what they can do to prevent them. Because I am just an MBA. I am not an attorney. So I spend a lot of time saying, you need to talk to an attorney, or you need to purchase these contracts or other things from an attorney. And we're going to hear straight from the attorney's mouth why you need to cover your legal bases in your business. So welcome so much. So happy to have you here.
Thank you so much, Haley. I'm so excited to be here.
So, you have a Facebook group, you have your own large online following. You see a lot of small business owners.
Yes.
What are the top mistakes that you see people making from a legal perspective in their businesses?
There's so many. So let's go over some of the top ones. Number one is that, if you have an online business, I see entrepreneurs just totally not making their website legal. And by saying website legal, I mean not having any website legal policies or pages on their website, such as a privacy policy, disclaimers, and terms and conditions. And I can explain later, why they're so important. Also, not covering themselves by forming a legal entity, such as an LLC or anything else, to kind of create that separation between themselves and the business. Also, not using proper legal contracts while working with others. It could be hiring a first virtual assistant, to a social media marketing, to anything else. Whenever you're working with people, you want to always cover yourself and make sure that you avoid any kind of conflicts, misunderstandings, with proper contracts in place. I mean, there's just so many different kinds of legal mistakes I see. As a matter of fact, I have a blog post that I recently published on this topic on my website, which, you're welcome to kind of check it out, where I go over so many different mistakes that I see over the years.
And your website is aselfguru.com.
Yes, it's aselfguru.com. If you go under the blog, there's a legal tips page. And then in the legal tips page, you'll see all kinds of different blog posts on various different legal issues and topics.
So let's kind of go down the list here. And the first one I want to hit is the legal entity formation.
Right.
Because I see a lot of people say, oh, well, I'm just going to operate as a sole proprietor and I'm not going to open my own bank account.
So there's honestly nothing wrong with that, but here's the issue here's when the issue comes forward, is when, let's say, you get into any kind of a dispute with a client or you get sued, then your personal assets are at risk because you commingled your business funds with your personal funds, and there's legally there's no separation. Then all your personal assets are at risk if you are a sole proprietor, because in the eyes of the law, when you're a sole proprietor, you and your business are considered the same. So your personal, bank account, your house, your other assets, they're all at risk because you didn't have that separation. So that's why people that are really smart and they're very serious about growing their business, they make sure that they form a legal entity. Most of the times it's an LLC because it's the easiest one. And they, you can form it, and then you just have to maintain it, and you have a separate bank account, you have an EIN number, things like that. But at least it gives you that peace of mind at the end of the day that, hey, my business is separate from my personal assets. And this way you can protect your hard work and not lose all that, money that you saved up for years just because your business got into trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think that it's important, you can't overstate the importance of that because we live in a very sue happy environment.
Exactly. It's so easy to get sued for anything. I mean, as a lawyer, I know people get sued for all kinds of stuff, whether there's merit in the lawsuit or not, it doesn't matter, because like you just said, it's our culture, it's our society,
And it doesn't matter if you're in the right.
Exactly.
Or if you're in the wrong, it doesn't really matter. You can still lose. A lot of people are like, I'm going to get my day in court, I'm going to win, and I'll be fine. not
Yeah.
necessarily.
Yeah, like I'll give you my own example, Haley. And I share this, with everybody, not to scare anyone, but just to tell the truth, because this is where I'm coming from. My dad's business got sued for a simple legal mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs make and they don't think about, because he hired somebody to help grow his business, and then that person ended up suing him, and it was a $90,000 lawsuit that we didn't see coming. And at the time, my dad was not a very successful entrepreneur, so he lost everything. We had to start from scratch. And this is the big reason why I am a lawyer and why I'm a business lawyer, because I've watched my father go through the nightmare and lose a lot of money, a lot of sleep, and, for the entire year. So it's something really serious, and like I said, a simple mistake like that could have been avoided with a proper contract in place. But because he didn't have a contract, this freelancer alleged all kinds of things, and we had to fight it, and it was just devastating.
Yeah.
So,
And that's where bankruptcy starts to come in.
yeah.
And it gets really, really ugly really fast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unfortunately.
Especially it's so unexpected, right? So you don't see it coming, you don't think about it. So that's why when it comes to the legal stuff, I always say it's like that glue that holds your business together. So you always want to make sure you have a strong foundation.
Absolutely. So let's talk about websites and stuff, because I develop websites for clients as a digital marketer. And one of the things I get frequently is, can't you just use a template, or can't you just copy the one from your website?
Well, never ever copy the one from anyone's website, because that leads to copyright infringement. So we have what's called copyright law. Under copyright law, my content is mine, your content is yours. So I can't just copy your stuff, and that would be that's considered stealing, and that's basically a copyright violation called leading up to a lawsuit, copyright infringement lawsuit, and that does happen a lot, and they're very, very costly. So that's the first mistake that you want to avoid in your business. You never want to assume that, oh, I can just copy someone's legal policies or templates and things like that. You want to have legal rights to be able to do that. So the second thing is about the template part. There's nothing wrong with a template if it's from a lawyer. So if you're just going to grab some free template online floating around on Google, you again risk not knowing like who wrote the template, whether it actually protects you. I've been auditing legal templates for more than 10 years now, and I found so many loopholes and issues with them because they're never, ever legally sufficient. And so they don't hold up in court. They don't fully protect the person. So that's why if you want to use a template, use like a lawyer approved one. So that way you have peace of mind and you know for sure that it includes all the legal provisions that you should have to comply with the laws and to make your website legal.
So what do you say if somebody says, but I can't afford the couple of $100 to buy the templates?
You know what I say is, well, then can you afford thousands of dollars in lawsuit? So, there are all kinds of legal violations, right? Like if you don't have a proper privacy policy, go check out Federal Trade Commission's website and you will see, I'm talking hundreds of thousands of dollars of lawsuits and, filed daily, and audits and fines and companies being fined, not just the big ones, but small ones too. So you just have to really ask yourself that how much your business is worth to you, right? Because speaking from personal experience, when my dad's business got sued, it wasn't just him who suffered, it's the entire family. So you want to look at from all aspects that just for the couple of $100, is it really worth losing the sleep and going through that nightmare, or just might as well do things the right way from the beginning? I mean, you're spending money on so many other things when you're starting a business. Why not cut corners or something that's less important? Maybe don't use a plugin, maybe don't hire someone for something else. But I just don't think that the legal stuff is where you want to cut corners.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, there are good options out there that we're going to talk about here in just a minute. So let's talk about not using a contract when you are either working with a client or with a contractor. So what is the downside of that?
So the downside is like one of the examples I just gave, and I have so many other examples over the years that I've seen clients get into. Like for example, I had a coach and she didn't have a coaching agreement in place. She was coaching a client on health, losing weight. Like, so she was recommending supplements and all kinds of workout routines. And she was working with this client for like a couple of months. And then the client turned around, suffered some sort of a negative consequence because of the supplement side effect. And then that's my Alexa there, sorry. So then the client basically threatened to sue. And because there was no contract in place, nothing to make it clear that what the terms were, the coach, who was my client, she ended up having to issue the full refund. So she lost all that money, thousands of dollars. She had to give back to the client that she was coaching just because she didn't have an agreement in place. Now, if she did have a coaching agreement in place, she could have avoided all of that hassle. Both the client and the coach would have known, like, okay, what are the terms? What's the scope of work? There are something called coaching disclaimers in place. So you would put all of that in the contract to protect yourself for something just like that. So that's the first thing. You not having a contract will just lead to misunderstandings between the parties. There will be confusion and conflicts as to the amount of work that you're doing. I mean, Haley, you work with clients. Clients can sometimes be difficult, right? Like they can come back and say, hey, we agreed upon this, but now I want you to do this too. But if you don't have a contract in place, then you basically end up losing money and you end up ruining their relationship.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too, that I see a lot of times, good contracts make good business because, sometimes things do go south. Like you're working on a website, somebody, or logos or branding or whatever, somebody decides they don't like your artistic style and they decide they want a refund and they go to the credit card company and they file a chargeback.
Yes.
And if you don't have a contract in place, good luck. You're gonna lose your money.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. It reminds me of a story that one of the entrepreneurs that I was helping out legally, that's exactly what happens with her. So it was a digital product. It wasn't actually a service, but it was still a product, right? So she had sold a digital product and there was a chargeback filed. And then she came to me and she said, Amira, what can I do? And I said, the first thing is that, do you have terms and conditions that a customer clicked to accept? And she said, yes, I do. So that was great that she did. So this way we were able to fight that. So she was able to show those terms and conditions as well as that, screenshot, like, hey, every time someone purchases from me, they're legally bound by my terms and conditions. And here's the proof of that. So by doing that, she was able to win that, and she didn't have to end up losing money. But if she didn't have that contract in place, because terms and conditions are also what's considered a contract, but if she didn't have that, she would have had to lose that money. So yeah, it happens all the time, That's why if you're selling products or you're selling services, depending on the kind of work that you're doing, you're going to need different kinds of contracts. If you're coaching, you need a coaching contract. If you're offering or you're hiring a freelancer, you're going to need a freelance contract. If you're selling products, then you're going to need terms and conditions. So again, the premise is the same, right? You just have that contract to avoid these kinds of legal issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so what's the downside of just Googling up a contract?
So the downside is there are quite a few. Number one, you have no idea like who wrote those contracts in the first place, whether they're legit, whether they're going to hold up in court. Number two is that they're always legally deficient. Because I've been auditing contracts and writing contracts for years, I found like a lot of loopholes in these free templates that are online. So they're never ever enough to hold up in court, and they don't protect you fully. So then what's the point, right? You're just doing a half-hearted job. You're not fully protected. The third thing is that you could also run into copyright issues with that, because once again, you're taking someone else's work, but you don't know like if you can even legally do that. Like what are the terms and conditions behind that template? So you always kind of want to do things the right way and make sure that you have a template, whether it's a contract, whether it's a website policy, make sure to have it at least written by a lawyer or reviewed by a lawyer if you don't want to buy from a lawyer, then maybe you have your own contract that you want to just take it to the lawyer to at least say, hey, can you please look over this to make sure that I'm protected? And that happens all the time with my services. One of the things that I offer is like contract review or contract drafting services. And people come to me all the time. Sometimes they've been using a contract for years that they revised on their own, or they added some things, but they don't know how to write the legal stuff or the legal jargon. So they'll come to me and be like, can you please look it over for added security and peace of mind? And I do that and I help you out. So there's so many options available, you know?
Yeah. And I think that it is also important to mention that just as with doctors, different doctors have different specialties, different attorneys have different specialties.
Exactly.
And contract law in particular is very different from, real estate law is different from
Tax law.
trademarks, tax laws. All of those things are so very different. Get an attorney who's a specialist in what you're looking for, not somebody that just does traffic tickets.
Yeah, exactly. Just like if you have a heart issue, you're not going to go to a stomach doctor, right? Like you're going to go. So it's the same thing with lawyers, right? We all have our specialties. And I agree with you. One of the big mistakes I see people making is that, oh, I know a lawyer friend. And even though that friend may be, like you said, in real estate, oh, maybe I'm just going to, save some money and just consult her. And people seek out unspecialized legal counsel all the time. And that's a big mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. So tell me a little bit about the services that you provide, because I think that they are super cool and super affordable too, which is kind of the cool part here. Because we keep saying talk to an attorney, and I think people start seeing dollar signs all over the place, and they're like, this is going to be so expensive.
Yeah, no, and thank you for pointing that out. And one of the things that I really made sure when I started my online business and helping entrepreneurs legally was to keep my stuff affordable, because I get it. I've gone through firsthand how expensive lawsuits can be. And I also have seen over the years the kind of issues, clients and customers suffer with. So yes, I purposely kept my prices super affordable. And you know that, Haley, because I believe you've gotten my templates as well. So, so to talk about, like, there's a legal store page on my website, and you will see so many different legal contracts, templates, depending on your niche. So if you're an entrepreneur, at the bare minimum, you're going to need a privacy policy, a disclaimer, terms and conditions on your website. Those are 3 essential legal pages, as I call them. And that comes in the starter legal bundle, that's why it's called starter legal bundle, because it's something you need when you start your business. And then if you need like additional legal protections, such as maybe you're accepting guest posts, or maybe you're working with brands to create sponsored content, or maybe you're hiring freelancers. So you're like in the middle, right? Like maybe your business is growing. So you're going to need like the premium legal bundle for that. Or let's say you're a little bit more experienced and your business has been established for a little while. It doesn't have to be. I mean, I have a lot of people that are just starting, go for my VIP legal bundle, but then I have a VIP legal bundle, which kind of gives you everything in the starter, in the premium. It also kind of shows you how to use other people's intellectual property legally, like photos, videos. There's a template for that. The coaching agreement we talked about, like an LLC operating agreement. I mean, just forming an LLC is not enough, right? You want to have an operating agreement that dictates how your LLC is being run and how it's being managed. So you need an operating agreement for that. So that all of those good templates and all that good stuff is in the VIP legal bundle. So those are like the 3 most popular bundles, but depending on, again, what your niche is, you could be a coach, you could be a freelancer. I have additional legal bundles tailored to you. So if you go to the legal store, you can definitely take a look at them. But I talked about the 3 most important. And then there's a work with me page as well, where if you want to work with me one-on-one, because I know a lot of times with the legal stuff, sometimes people want that face-to-face interaction. They want to be able to ask their questions. And that's why I have different kinds of services. Like if you need help with forming an LLC, you need help with a contract review or drafting, or, just have legal questions that you want answered, you can always set up a call with me.
That's awesome. And one of the things that I want to put out there is, having looked at a lot of contracts and not being an attorney, is how even-handed the contracts are, because I've dealt with, getting contracts and purchasing contracts in my business quite a bit over the years. And, one of the things that I've run up against and, and having other attorneys review the work is that sometimes the contracts are very one-sided.
Yes.
And one of the problems that you run into with that is when the contract is incredibly one-sided, it actually makes it harder for it to hold up in court.
Yes.
And I was actually really pleasantly surprised because I actually did download the contracts, and I bought the whole bundle, and I did all the things, and I reviewed the contracts as, I am wont to do.
Right.
And they were very even-handed, which was really quite refreshing, honestly.
Yeah.
And I mean, it just gave me a level of assurance, because then, I'm one of those people who will go and then have my other attorney take a look at it and make sure that I'm doing all the right things. And, it was just that even-handedness to the approach with the contracts, and how common sense they were, that was really, really helpful. And I want to put that out there because, it's unusual to find those kinds of like legal bundles that are very even-handed, very even approach. And like you said, I think that, you talk about that, finding deficiencies.
Yep.
This makes it much easier.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad to hear that, because that's exactly what my intent was. Like, I don't want it to be that one-sided, because that's what leads to a contract not being enforced in court, right? So yeah, I'm so glad to hear that you found them, like even-handed, because for example, even the freelance contract, I give you like so many different options. Like, hey, if you're the client, you can use this provision, or if you're the freelancer, you can use this provision. So you can decide like which one, fits you, but at least you have both options. So it's not like a contract written in favor of the client or just the freelancer. You kind of, you get a balanced, well-written contract.
Yeah, I really like that. So how does somebody go about finding you, and what, buying the contracts and doing all this stuff and getting their business on the right side of legal? Because that's the whole point with the summit is, that, operations, finance, and this is one of those big boulders in operations, is the legal stuff.
Exactly. So, definitely take a look at the website, aselfgrew.com, where you can easily reach me. I have my Facebook community, which is also A Self Group Biz Blog community, where you can also connect with me one-on-one. And I also just started working on my YouTube channel. So I would love for you to kind of check it out too, because I post a lot of helpful videos related to the legal stuff, as well as some blogging and business related topics to help you out. So those are like 3 different ways you can easily get in touch with me, and I'm happy to connect.
That's awesome. Cool. Thank you so much for doing this with me here today. I appreciate you taking the time. This has been amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Haley.
Thanks, everybody. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and make sure you get your bundles.
Right.